Hello again. I need to tell you that by now I am a bit, tired because this is the third video that I'm recording today. Of course, you're watching the videos in different, with break of 2 weeks between each other. But for me, it's the same day, so I'm a bit tired. My voice starts getting a bit heavier, but please bear with me. It is very important, this video, and I want every woman to know about it. Please share it with your friends, with your sisters, with your daughters, with your mothers. Please spread the knowledge because many Muslim women don't know, and unfortunately, if we don't know, we are hostages in the opinions and the whims of others. And God has made us khalifas of Allah on earth. Every woman is a Khalifa of Allah on earth, but it's our job to learn, educate ourselves, and be proud of what God gave us and demand it. Don't give up your rights. So, we already saw the introduction about why it's important to have a contract, why it is absolutely okay, why women had contracts in the era of the Prophet, why the Prophet himself acknowledged that contracts existed. So the first reaction of any potential suitor that, oh, the contracts, what are you talking about? Now you know what we're talking about. This was in the first video of this series. If you haven't watched it, go. In the second video, I gave you the religious justification, the Quranic parts that support the right of a woman to divorce, and because this is the main benefit of the contract. It gives you windows to escape a marriage that does not please you. And we also saw the hadith, and we saw also the first scholars, the scholars that supported the idea of contract. They acknowledge that the woman has the right to put her own terms and conditions in her contract. So this is for you to have the knowledge of and the spiritual peace, that you don't go against God. Now, we will go to see more specifically the clause against polygyny. And I don't call it polygamy because it's not polygamy, it's polygyny. We need to be conscious with our language. Words matter. So, I will give you an example of a gentleman that really touched my heart. So there was a very young boy from Africa, I think it was South Africa, that at some point when I published on my social media, on my Facebook, about the idea that a woman can stipulate that the husband will not take another wife. He was furious about that. And then, upon discussion, I came to realize that in his community, they have told him that it is his religious obligation to get 4 wives. And he was so sad, and he was telling me that, unfortunately, I cannot afford 4 wives. I will do my best. I will only get 2, and may God forgive me. And that really pissed me off so much. Not on the boy itself. He was a very young man. But on the community, on the ulama of his community. How they spiritually abuse men to make them think that it's their obligation. It's not obligation. Polygyny is not obligation. Polygyny was a measure of need in the first period in the formative period of Islam, because half Muslim men were being killed in the wars, and the Muslim women were staying unmarried, and they had nobody to support them, because a Muslim woman back then was to be supported by her father or her father, brother, or husband. So if the husband was dead and the father was dead, women will starve. So it was like a charity, okay? But anyway, this is not the topic of this video. I will tell you, and also majority of Muslims in Muslim minority countries, especially America. I haven't seen it here in the UK so much, but I see it very much in America. They do it for fun, okay? I see it also in my country, in Greece, especially Pakistani and Bangladeshi men. They travel to Greece to work, and they marry someone in Greece, whereas they have another wife in Pakistan, and vice versa. They are married with someone in Greece, and then they go and they marry the cousin that their mom wants them to marry. So, no, it doesn't work like that. A woman is not to have one in each country, to have fun whenever you travel to this country. So let's see stipulations against polygyny. Yes, you can stipulate that your husband cannot take a second wife. I already told you that in Egypt this is an automatic stipulation. You cannot marry at all if you don't specify this. So when the boys will cry their eyes out, you cannot stop me from having a second wife. Yes, Habibi, we can. It has been done before, most famously by Sukaina bint Hussein, the Prophet's great-granddaughter. The source is Hamad in Yamani, 1996, pages 335 and 336. So what happened is that Sukaina, she ordered her husband, she stipulated, not ordered husband, that sounds bad. She stipulated in her marital contract that her husband will not take another wife. And don't forget that when Ali, the son-in-law of the Prophet, married with Fatima, when Ali decided that he wants to have a second wife, the Prophet told him, no, you will not have a second wife. Out of question. So polygyny is not a right. Therefore, a woman can stipulate against it. Men usually cry out that polygyny is ordered in the Quran, therefore stipulating against it contradicts the Quran. However, the Quran deems polygyny as permissible based on conditions, whereas the Quran also deems honoring the contract obligatory under any circumstances. We saw that in video number 2. Therefore, the latter, honoring the contracts, supersedes the former. Polygyny is also deemed sunnah, but a weak sunnah. Let's see the opinions of the past legal scholars on polygyny stipulations. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah was asked about a man who married a woman and she stipulated that he should not take another wife or make her move from her home, and that she could live with her mother, and he went ahead with the marriage on that basis. So the idea is that you tell him what you want in advance, you put it in the marriage and he agrees, you get married. Is he obliged to adhere to that? And if he goes against these conditions, does the wife have the right to annul the marriage or not? Be careful of the language here. Annul the marriage, not khula. Annul the marriage. By yourself you say, okay, this marriage is not valid anymore. And the idea is what? The marriage is based on the stipulations of the contract. The woman accepts to give herself to the husband based on these conditions. If he breaks the conditions, you haven't accepted. So the marriage is annulled. My sisters, learn. Knowledge is power. So this is the question that was posed to Ibn Taymiyyah, that, okay, he accepted, he went ahead, now he wants to get a second wife. Does the woman have the right to annul the marriage? And Ibn Taymiyyah replied, yes. These conditions, now I quote from Ibn Taymiyyah, yes, these conditions are, and similar ones are valid according to the madhab of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and others among the Sahaba and Tabi'in, such as Umar ibn al-Khattab, Amr ibn al-As, Shurai al-Qadi, I'm sorry, my vision, al-Awzaj and Ishaq. The view of Malik, a different school, is that if she stipulates that if he takes another wife or takes a concubine, she has the right to decide whether to stay married to him or not, then this condition is also valid and the woman has the right to leave him. End of quote. That's exactly what Ibn Taymiyyah stated. This is similar to the view of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, that it is because of the report narrated by Al-Bukhari and Muslim that the Prophet said, the conditions that are most deserving are the ones that secure you access to her. So the idea of marriage is that a woman is giving herself to the man to have intimate, access to her. All the conditions you put are related to this. If he breaks one condition, he doesn't have access to you. The marriage is annulled. Umar ibn al-Khattab said, rights are connected to conditions. So if you break the condition, you lose the right. So the Prophet made that by which of means intimacy becomes permissible more deserving of being fulfilled than anything else. However, for this to apply, the agreement needs to take place at the time of the marriage. You need to sign your contract the moment you are getting married, not before, not after. It is very important. Also, on this matter, I will tell you, this is more about the conditions in the stipulations in general. I have here this book, Al-Muwatta of Imam Malik ibn Anas. You can find it easily, it's very cheap. And we will go to page number 220. And here, Malik says, the custom among us is that when a man marries a woman and he makes a condition in the marriage contract that he will not marry after her or take a concubine, back then it was not only about marrying another woman, it was taking a concubine as well. So if he agrees in the marital contract that he will not take another wife and he will not take a concubine, it means nothing unless there is an oath of divorce, of setting free attached to it. Then it is obliged, the husband is obliged and required of him. Why this is important? We will see that in a few minutes. It's not enough for you to put in your contract, oh, I don't accept that he will get another wife. No. Every clause, every stipulation needs to finish with a specific sentence. I will read for you the sentence which says that, and if he does so, then I have the right, or the wife. You will not use I and you. You'll have to say that the husband agrees that he will not take another wife, and if he does, then the wife has the right to divorce herself. You need to be very careful on how you use the language. I mentioned that in the first part. I will give you examples. Again, I said it in one of the previous videos. Under every video, I will give my email. If you need, I can send you a model. It will be my marital contract. I have already shaped my terms of my contract, just in case. I will send you my stipulations and you will see the language, the form, the details and everything. Use it. Send me the email. I will send you the terms. But it's very important. Don't just put, oh, he's not permitted to play video games. Is not permitted, or not, you cannot even say not permitted. You cannot say that the husband agrees that he will not play video games. It needs to be the husband. Actually, the mistake was a good mistake. You cannot say he's not permitted, because he is permitted if he wants. It's just that X agrees that he will not do this and that, and if he decides to do it, then the wife has the right to divorce. In my contract, I always put, the wife has the right to divorce without returning any gifts. Now, having the right to divorce does not mean that you will divorce, okay? Because I have different language when I don't negotiate about something, but we will see that later on, not now. So yeah, very careful the way you shape your contract. So let's continue again about the idea of polygyny. We return to the idea of polygyny. The Hanbali Shaykh Salih Al-Fawzan said, among other conditions that are valid in marriage is if she stipulates that he should not take another wife. If he fulfills the condition, all well and good. Otherwise, she has the right to annul the marriage because of the hadith. The condition which most deserves to be fulfilled is that by means in which intimacy becomes permissible to you. Annul the marriage. You end the marriage, and I will tell you how you end the marriage. Should I tell you? Yeah, let's go to this part. So, the same book, this book, exactly how to do it. Where is it? Give me a second. Where was it? The 3 times. Oh, here. Okay, excellent. Okay, I found it. I'm sorry about the pause, but you need. So, according to Malik, this is Maliki school. Let's start from the beginning. So in your marital contract, you have the right to have a clause, a stipulation, where it will say the husband gives the wife the right to divorce herself. This is very important, ladies. Very important. Do not marry if he does not honor this term. This is a deal breaker. It's the same like if he will rape you. It's the same like if he will beat you. Do not negotiate. You can negotiate about cleaning the house. You can negotiate about traveling. You can negotiate about whatever else you want. Do not negotiate this. To begin with, it is religiously accepted. We have seen it. It has happened. We saw the hadith where the Prophet gave the right to women to divorce themselves. And we have here the examples. I will give you the examples from Malik. Malik lived in 700... let me give you the ages. Yeah, Malik ibn Anas ibn Malik was born in 711. That makes it 80 years after the death of the Prophet, and he died in 795. That means that he was of the Tabain, so he was of the people that came after the Sahaba. So Malik tells us, I will read from the book, page 222. Yahya related to me from Malik that he had heard that a man came to Abdullah ibn Umar and said, Abu Abd ar-Rahman, I placed the command of my wife in her hands, and she has divorced herself from me. What do you think? Abdullah ibn Umar said, I think that it is as she said. Saying that, yeah, okay, she divorced you. Now you're divorced. Go away. The man said, don't do it, Abu Abdurrahman. And Umar said, you did it. It has nothing to do with me. So here, what do we have? In this era, in the era of the Sahaba and in the era of the Tabain, the women were putting in the stipulation that the husband gives the right of divorce in the hands of the woman. And here we have, of the wife. And here we have an example where she used that right, she divorced him, he didn't like the idea, and he was trying to find ways to manipulate the system. And when he went to a scholar, the scholar was like, yeah, you put it in the contract, now it's her right, she divorced you, go away. And he was like, don't do that, you did it, you gave her the right. Very important, you have the right, do not negotiate it. It is very important. Another, this was number 10, so I'm reading from page 222, it was number 10, and now we go to number 11. Yahya related to me from Malik, from Nafi, that Abdullah ibn Umar said, when a man gives a woman command over herself, then the result is as she decided, unless he denies it and says that he only meant to give her one divorce and he swears to it. Then he has access to her while she is in her iddah. The idea is that, okay, when she divorces, the man counts as one divorce, so he might be capable of taking her back after negotiation. This is the details of the talaq. We will not talk about talaq today. I cannot. Which means what? First of all, you have the right to ask to have your, right to divorce yourself. It is not khula. It is not khula. Here, in number 10, we didn't see the man saying, oh, my wife went to a scholar and the scholar gave her a divorce. Because if this was the case, then he wouldn't be able to negotiate a divorce issued by a scholar. So here we're talking about talaq. The wife, if you have this stipulation, and please have this stipulation, it can save your life. The stipulation is for talaq. You will talaq him. Technically, you will talaq yourself from him, because in the marriage, you give yourself. Okay, someone asks you, do you give yourself to him? And you say, yes, I give myself to him. So technically, you divorce yourself from him. And here Malik gives us the correct way for this to happen, because if you do it once, it's like one talaq. One talaq is not valid. So, number 13 in page 223. Yahya related to me from Malik, from Abd ar-Rahman ibn al-Qasim, from his father, that a man of Thaqif gave his wife command over herself. So he gave her the stipulation that yes, she can divorce herself whenever she wants. So you see, here we have different examples. It was a popular practice in the era of the Malik, which is less than a century after the the Prophet's, peace be upon him, death, which means in the proto-Islamic era, women had this power. It was taken for granted. Nobody was questioning it. It's later on, when the ulama took over, that things changed. But according to the Prophet's example, according to the Quran and according to the Sahaba, this was the case. So, a man of Thaqif gave his wife the command over herself, and she said, "You are divorced." He, the man, was silent. She said, "You are divorced," second time. He said, "May a stone be in your mouth." She said, "You are divorced," third time. He said, "May a stone be in your mouth." They argued and went to Marwan ibn al-Hakam. Marwan made him take an oath that he had only given her control over one pronouncement, and then he gave her back to him. Malik said that Abdurrahman said that Al-Qasim was very pleased with Marwan's decision, who thought it was the best he had heard on the subject. Malik added, "That is also the best of what I have heard on the subject." So here what we see that the scholar intervened and returned the woman to the man, although she had pronounced three talaqs, 3 divorces. Now, you need to remember that a scholar decided, so she thought that she was divorced and he didn't have right on her, and then he went to a scholar and the scholar intervened. Now, we saw that in the previous case that a man did that, the scholar did not intervene. What does that show you? That scholars for centuries have manipulated the practices. Now, in our days, especially in Muslim minority countries, we don't have the scholars to intervene. The husband will not go to a scholar. You have the right to divorce yourself. Once he agrees and he puts it in the contract, and both of you put it in the contract, you have the right to divorce yourself. Okay, then, an important element here. When allowing, this is in number 29.5, it's an entire chapter, 29.5, in page 223. When a man allows you, when the husband will accept the stipulation that you have the right to divorce yourself, that does not constitute a divorce. The stipulation is not a declaration of divorce from his side. It's just that he gives you the right to divorce yourself. And why this is important? Take this book and read it. It's a very old printing from 2004, but it's quite cheap. Why is it important? Because if Malik went into that length to discuss different occasions and different manipulations and different what it means and what doesn't mean, that justifies that the clause can be there, the stipulation can be there. So this is about the right of the woman to stipulate that the husband will not take another wife, and the right of the woman to divorce herself. Not a khula, talaq. If it is in your contract, you don't need to go to a scholar. The way a man today can divorce you with triple talaq, and this is religiously acceptable, you also can do that if you have put the stipulation in your contract. So put the stipulation in your contract. Anyway, let's see now invalid stipulations. We clarified the two more objectified, let's say, the two stipulations that men refuse to accept. Well, they have to. It's in our religion, God and the Prophet and the first scholars gave us the right, and if your potential husband wants to take this right away of you, you run away. Now let's see invalid stipulations. There are certain stipulations that contradict the Quran and therefore are deemed invalid in marital contract. According to Ibn Qudama, certain conditions are automatically invalid when a spouse tries to add them to a marriage contract, although the marriage itself is still valid. So, what that means that if a stipulation is there, but it's invalid, the marriage is still valid. It's just that this specific stipulation cannot be fulfilled. Okay, it doesn't mean that this stipulation breaks and the marriage is annulled automatically. No. Examples of conditions that are automatically invalid are: 1. A wife does not get support. So if you get married and then the husband be like, okay, I will give you the power to divorce yourself, but from my side, I will not support you financially. No, this is invalid. Why? Because this is in the Quran and it's an obligation. It's not a right, it's an obligation in the Quran. 2. That the husband does not have full intercourse with her. I know of a case that a gentleman wanted to marry a lady. He was Sunni, she was Shia. And he wanted to marry just for purposes of something tribal agreements in his country, but he didn't want to sleep with her. This is invalid. A husband cannot be married with a woman without having intercourse with a woman. 3. That he spends more or less time with her than with his other wives in case of agreed polygyny. And what do I mean? Many women are okay with polygyny. If you are one of these women, alhamdulillah, do it. But the women like me, for example, that I'm not okay with polygyny, I will not accept it. But if there is accepted polygyny, he cannot say, okay, I will marry you, but I will spend more time with my other wives. Invalid. Ibn Qudama says that these conditions are invalid because they take away rights before the contract is even concluded and are therefore contrary to its intended effects. Even if such invalid conditions are added, however, the marriage itself remains valid since the rejected conditions are considered superfluous additions that do not affect the basic soundness of the contract. And this is from the book Mughni, volume 7, page 450. In addition, if a woman agrees on a certain amount of support as part of the marriage contract, it is not binding and she can go back on the agreement, according again to Ibn Qudama. Same book, pages 450-451. This is because full support, according to what the man is able to provide, is a basic right of the wife which cannot be taken away. So we saw permissible and impermissible stipulations, and now we will see the automatic stipulations. And what do I mean by automatic stipulations? It means you don't need to create them, they are there, they should be there. If, be careful, especially convert ladies, listen to me. If your sweetheart takes you to an isolated Sufi, let's not badmouth the Sufis, any mosque, that the marital contract is just your name, his name, and the two witnesses, something is fishy. Your marriage is not valid. The automatic stipulations that should exist, the necessary minimum, let's put it that way, the necessary minimum for a marital contract to be, valid are the type of the marriage. Nowadays, the majority, they have nikah. That's why we call it nikah contract. But it depending on the sect and on the type, there are different types of marriage. I will not talk about the different types of marriage now. If you want to learn the different types of marriage and you want me to make a video about that, please let me know and I will do it. The amount of mahar needs to be there. How much mahar you will take or the husband will give. Mahar is very important, and I want to say a few things about mahar. A marriage is invalid without mahar, or if the mahar is of minute value, or if it is decided by anyone other than the wife. And why do I insist on that so much? I mean, I could honestly make a video only on mahar. If you're tired, if the video is too long, make a pause, go have a coffee, do something else, and come back tomorrow and watch the rest. It's very important. So, all the gentlemen today are like, oh, you need to be, don't stick. This is a sentence that men have said to me, that don't stick with the letter of the law, go to the spirit of the law. No, Habibi, you don't go to the spirit. Men will be like, oh, I can give you something symbolic. And I can give you... first of all, mahar should be money, a financial amount. Should be jewelry. Or property other than the house that you live in. Do not accept as mahr the house that the family will live in, you and your husband will live in. Because if you do, then you are the maintainer, because the house is yours. And also, in case of a divorce, civil divorce, he will take it back, because it's a family property, and it will be, I mean, here in the UK, the law is split 50-50. So, nothing else. This idea that, oh, the mahr will be a cat. Or the very popular, oh, mahr will be teaching me to recite the Quran. Or, no, it needs to be something tangible. Or that, oh, mahr can be a trip to Mecca, or, you know, no. In this case, it will be the financial cost of a trip to Mecca. So in case he will divorce you, he needs to give you that. And why do I say in case he will divorce you? Because mahr can... Okay, the idea is that mahr should be paid all in advance and can be something symbolic. It shouldn't be something symbolic. Again, I repeat, if is of minute value, then the marriage is invalid. Mahr needs to be something substantial. Now, between me and you, if you are in my age and you have a certain experience, you know that if you make it too easy for men, they take you for granted. The value you give yourself is the value that the husband will give to you. So if you marry him without anything, you cost him nothing. He will kick you out. So, mahr needs to be important amount. And when I say important amount, it can be £20,000, £30,000. I have an example in Australia that someone asked for $750,000. And it's okay. Don't take items, money or jewelry or property, and it needs to be of certain value, and it needs to be decided by the wife. In the case of Australia, unfortunately, I was informed that the imam that was to sign the marital contract, he refused, and he forced the wife, the future wife, to change the amount, to lower the amount. This is invalid, and I wish I was there. This marriage is not a valid marriage because the mahr was decided by someone else. The wife was blackmailed by the imam to change the amount. So it's not with her free will, because a woman gives herself to the husband based on conditions and based on this value. I want that money. That's how much I value myself. That's how much you need to pay me to take me. If someone else will come and play with the number, then marriage is invalid. So women, you decide the amount. The amount needs to be amount, not a book or a skill, and can't be £20. Of course, be rational. If the person, if the future husband does not have the financial capacity, don't push too much, but make it so much so. And let me make it more specific. My advice to young ladies is that calculate how much money, if tomorrow morning he will divorce you, and technically he will kick you out of his house, calculate how much money you will need to live for 3 months. You will need to rent another apartment, you will need food, you will need transportation. Calculate the cost, and this should be your mahr. Your mahr should be the financial cost of 3 months living without working. This should be the minimum mahr. So if, let's say, the rent in your area is £1,000 a month, and then you need another £600 to eat and travel, then £1,600 by, multiplied by 3, this should be the minimum of your mahr. And then, of course, you will have men say, oh, women, they all think about money. Well, Habibi, the rent is not being paid with flowers. The food is not being paid with flowers. The tube and the bus, they don't take love they don't take the spirit of the law for payment. They need cash. They need money. Let's be realistic. But now someone will be like, oh, I don't have that savings. So if, let's say, the mahr is £35,000, which is a very normal amount, depending on your age, your status, your living conditions, your education and everything, I don't have the money to give you that mahar. Mahar does not have to be paid in advance. You can have installments, and you can sit down and you must put it in your contract that, okay, mahar is as of such amount that will be repaid in 5 years, £100 per month. Now, if your future husband does not have an excess of £100 per month to pay your mahar, then most probably don't marry him. If he doesn't have the money, then he's not suitable. If he doesn't have the capacity to save £100 per month to give it to you as your mahar, then marriage is haram for him. He's not permissible to get married. That being said, with the installments, which is a very good solution because you don't put stress on the husband, but at the same time you have your right. Save your mahar, don't spend it. It's for you, and it's your safety box. If you have the stipulation that you can divorce yourself, you don't have to return the mahar, so do whatever you want with your mahar. But if you don't have the stipulation and your only exit is khula, don't touch your mahar. Save it. Now, the rules of mahar are these. 1, only the wife decides how much it is. 2, can be paid in installments. If, let's say, something bad happens and the husband for a few months cannot repay, you renew the contract, you create new arrangement. If he divorces you, before he will divorce you, he needs to give you the rest of the mahar. So let's say your mahar is £35,000, he already gave you 20,000, and then one day he's like, oh, I divorce you. He needs to repay you instantly £15,000. It is his legal obligation. Also, if he dies, God protect every man, but if he dies and he hasn't repaid all the amount of mahar, his family is responsible to, first of all, from his assets, the first debt that they need to arrange is your debt. So if he dies and he has only paid you £20,000, his family, the first debt that the family needs to arrange is for you to get your £15,000. And after that, whatever is being left over, they pay the rest of the debts, and then they go into inheritance discussions. So this is very, very important. Attention. In case of a divorce, when the case is dealt according to the civil law, many men insist that the amount that the civil court allocates for the wife is a repayment of mahar. So, for example, if the court says that, okay, every month you need to pay her £50 or £100, be like, okay, I have already given her 20,000 for her mahar, so this will be part of... No. I think should I finish with this? No, do you know what I will do? To conclude, I will not make another video, I'm too tired now. To conclude this, stipulations that you can add. So these two stipulations, let's finish the previous. These two stipulations, the type of the marriage and the mahar are automatic. They must be they are in every contract. From that point onwards, you add your own stipulations. And your stipulations can be about polygyny, about obedience, about violence and coercion, about household responsibilities, anything about children, the number of children you want, the period of the birth, familial relations, values, etc. Divorce, please add the stipulation of your divorce. As I told you, I will not go into too much discussion about that. You need to be very careful how you shape your clauses. Your clauses need to be always bound with, and if he decides to do so, then the wife has the right to divorce herself without returning any gifts or the mahar. If you need the sample contract to see how I have worded my contract, send me an email and I will send it to you happily. In certain stipulations, I change the wording, and it's like, for example, in stipulation about extramarital relations. In an ideal world, or according to the Islamic law, if the husband will cheat, then he needs to be killed by stoning, and then the wife is automatically free to remarry. But in today's world, this doesn't happen, and many Muslim men, they do that, they cheat. So in my marriage, marital contract, I have put the stipulation that, in my contract, I have put the stipulation that if I suspect, or if the wife suspects that the husband has extramarital relationship, then the husband is obliged to offer access to information according to the wife's desire. So for example, if I tell him, show me your mobile, he cannot say, no, I will not show you your mobile. And if an intimate relation outside the marriage is identified, then the marriage is over and the wife, will leave the premises without returning mahar or gifts. And what is the difference here? In the first clause, I'm like, I have the right to divorce myself, which means I don't have to divorce myself. I can negotiate. I can think about it. We can discuss it. Okay, we are humans. But in specific clauses, like violence and infidelity, I don't negotiate. And the husband needs to know that. And you need to put it in your contract. So the wording is very important. Because if he cheats, and I discover it, and then he'd be like, oh, let's bring the mediators and let's go to the local Sharia council to mediate. There is no mediation. You have already accepted, Habibi, you have signed the contract, and I have made it clear that in case I will catch you cheating on me, I'm out. No negotiation. So in the first clause, he can ask for mediation. He can ask for negotiation. In the second, he cannot. Again, if you need the contract, email me. I will send it to you. Thank you very much for watching. I know they are long videos. I know they can be tiring, but they are essential for our future and potentially for our life. So, thank you for watching. If you have questions, if you want clarifications, if you want to give me examples of, okay, I'm thinking of this stipulation, is it okay? Leave a comment under the video and I will respond to that. For now, from me, bye. And may you be happily married. Bye.